On the last episode of Alpha, the Antonio story, Antonio continued to rebel, but he found that his mother was not responding in the way that he expected. Basically, in response to her lack of response, he responded even more. Antonio started spending more time with Brenda, and they formulated a bond. As a result, she allowed him to ask some important questions. Antonio learned that his father hadn't left Brenda penniless. He also learned that Brenda only exposed the relationship to spite his father, not because she wanted him to leave his marriage. But the biggest surprise came when Antonio uncovered a secret about his father. Brenda wasn't the only drug dealer. His father was as well. And in a turn that we probably all saw coming, Brenda started showing Antonio the ropes. And now, Chapter 6, Loss and Hard Lessons. Narrated by Shandora Warren. Music by Epidemic Sound. I was 13 years old, and my father's 40-year-old girlfriend was teaching me everything she knew about the crack game. It started out pretty innocently. Well, it probably wouldn't seem innocent to the average person. But when you rise to the status that I eventually reached, dropping off a few bags and collecting the money didn't seem like much. I was happy to do it. I felt like I was making a real difference in Brenda's situation. Like, if I was making a few runs for her, she could stay at the apartment and do other things. Maybe that would increase her money. She needed someone. In my father's absence, I felt that I needed to step up. To her credit, Brenda did encourage me to behave in school. My life with her was a weekend thing. She'd say, just do what you got to do during the week, and you could kick it on the weekends. Brenda's apartment was a free space. She let me do whatever I wanted. I openly cursed. I hung out with a couple of guys from the complex. I even had a girlfriend out there. The only stipulation was that I not tell my mother what was going on. That was a lot of freedom for a 13-year-old boy. And the more I experienced, the harder it was for me to appreciate the life that I had with my mother. Home was a safe space where everything was accounted for, but safety wasn't necessarily at the top of the list, especially when excitement was the alternative. That's what I experienced at Brenda's, excitement. But as the saying goes, all good things come to an end. No, there wasn't some tumultuous set of circumstances that tore me away from Brenda. In fact, it was the exact opposite. My accessibility to the situation didn't change. My perception, however, did. I'm sure it's no surprise, but I found myself in trouble once again. But that time, it was more severe than a minor mishaps in which I had previously been involved. It was a random Monday, and I was fresh from an eventful week at Brenda's. I was playing basketball with some boys in the gym when a bag of weed fell out of my pocket. I had been in trouble before, but never for anything drug-related. Apparently, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The principal, who had typically been content with a light suspension, decided that the police should be called. That led to me getting sent to a juvenile facility. The crazy thing is, I wasn't really smoking like that. I had gotten the weed from one of the guys in a Brenda's apartment complex. I only accepted it to show it off to my friends at school. Of course, my mother came to the juvenile facility. Prior to her arrival, I was advised that she'd be picking me up. She walked into the room with the biggest chip on her shoulder. She sat down in front of me and said, "You happy now, Antonio? This what you wanted? You want to tell me I was right now, or you going to wait till they let you out?" I deserved it. I deserved a stubborn part of me wouldn't bend to her will. Instead, I decided to match her. I looked my mother in the eyes and said, "Nah, I'm going to wait till I get out." She laughed. My mother laughed. She got up from the table and said, "Don't worry about it." I stood, assuming that I was about to follow, but to my surprise, the guard stood in front of me and blocked the door. "What you doing?" I asked. He chuckled lightly and said, "You failed the test, man. You ain't going home today." Apparently, my mother had told them that she'd only take me home if I acted sensibly. I had indeed failed the test. I was in that facility for 9 days. Confined to a space with 27 other boys, there was very little to do. You could fight, read, or watch television. I chose to watch television. Even then, our options were limited. There were 5 channels, and we had to constantly readjust the television knobs for 2 of them to show clearly. Keep in mind that it was 1981. And that's when it happened. It was night 8, and I knew I'd be going home the next morning. I couldn't sleep, so I sat up to watch television. I turned past 2 of the channels, landing on the 3rd. My eyes immediately filled with tears as I watched the footage. It was a nature documentary. Ordinarily, I would have turned right past it, but my mind immediately drew a reference to my father. I felt connected to it, so I watched. In the years that followed, I can't count the number of occasions that I mentally referenced that specific block of time. It set the stage for everything. The documentary was about silverback gorillas and their familial units. There's one alpha male. He leads the family, makes decisions, and even executes discipline. The rest of the apes develop hierarchies under his guidance, even forming their own cliques and alliances. I had no idea at that point, but so much of my life would be structured around the discovery of that documentary. It wasn't the fact that it was accessible to me. I could have watched a nature documentary at any other point in time. It was more so about the feeling that my father had somehow placed in my path, like he needed to teach me a lesson for the very last time. And the lessons didn't stop there. I never went home again. I mean, I didn't remain at the juvenile facility, but I never went back home. When I awoke the next morning, my mother came to pick me up. Driving in silence, she didn't stop until we were in front of Brenda's door. "What are we doing here?" I asked. My mother turned to me. In spite of all the hardness that she had displayed over the course of that year, I could see the hurt in her eyes. For the first time, I allowed myself to really observe her. My mother looked worn. She looked older, like she had skipped 3 or 4 years to my one. With an obvious attempt to contain the tears that were forming in her lower eyelids, my mother addressed me. She said, "Tonio, I've lost a lot over the course of my life. I met your daddy when I was a young girl. I lost my virginity to him. I lost 2 babies to miscarriages. In our early years, he beat me to the point where I almost lost my life. He treated me terribly sometimes. Whether the world knew it or not, I lost my dignity. Your daddy was never really good with money, so I lost a lot of that too. He was decent to me for some years, then I lost him because he cheated. Eventually, I lost him to death. You see, I feel like I done took all the losses that I can handle, and at 60 years old, I'm not gonna let you make me lose my mind. Tonio, you gotta go. I'ma always be your mama, and if you decide that you're ready to act right, you can come back at any time. But for right now, you gotta learn some hard lessons. You need to see what life looks like when everything ain't set up for you. As for me, I need some peace. I'm not letting you do this to me anymore. I done already lost enough." I looked at my mother, completely shocked. "You really kicking me out, Ma?" My mother placed the car into the reverse position. She said, "I already gave all your stuff to Brenda. Don't make me pull you out of here, Tonio." I got out of the car. My mother drove away and didn't even look back. I didn't lose my mother, obviously. She lived close, and she still kept her hands on me to a certain degree. In truth, she knew that I wouldn't ever really be in lack. I wasn't aware about it at the time, but my mother had a very detailed arrangement with Brenda. She gave her money and made sure that I was still in school. My mother thought I'd struggle enough to Brenda to appreciate life at home. Unbeknownst to her, Brenda wasn't really struggling as much as she thought. I mean, she lived in the projects, and some periods were better than others, but for the most part, Brenda was doing all right as a drug dealer. My mother left it up to me, saying that I could come home when I was ready to act right. 3 years later, I was still there. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Shenny Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to purchase books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and some in hardback formats. Please like and follow this podcast and share it with your friends, family, and frenemies, because all relationships matter, even the toxic ones. Thanks so much for helping me to create the world that I want to see. This is my 10th book. Oh yeah, you're welcome.